Hey everybody, welcome back to my shop. Today I'm going to be building a straight line rip jig or a special sled for my sliding table saw. This is going to allow me to rip straight edges on pieces that are longer than 8 feet. Since my sliding table saw capacity for ripping only has a maximum of 70 inches, I want to be able to go 96 inches or more, so this sled's going to help with that. So first I'm going to get started with the track saw, and I'm going to cut a piece of the 8-foot plywood down to the length that I need and the width that I need so that I can make the jig for the table saw. The next thing I need to do is set up a quick straight edge, clamp it in place, and route a series of dovetail channels in the plywood, and that's going to allow me to use the micro jig match fit dovetail clamps. And you can see me putting those in the channel right there and testing them out. These are great clamps for making jigs, and I'm going to have a link to those in the description below. Be sure to check those out and the other tools that I use in this video as well. Now I'm going to space them out as evenly as possible by eye, and I'm going to route 4 different channels, and that's going to allow me to clamp down the pieces in multiple different places on the sled. Now, in order for this sled to be effective for longer boards, what I need to do is remove the crosscut fence. And what I'm going to do is just loosen the knobs, you see, lift it right off, and now you can see how the 8-foot sled will glide across with the sliding table, and then once I get to the maximum capacity, I could just further push the sled past the saw blade. And now what we'll have to do is to put a guide in the miter channel so that it keeps it in place. So I've taken a measurement of the miter slot, and now I'm cutting a piece of red oak, which is a hardwood, to the size that I need to fit in the miter slot. You want to make sure that you cut it precisely so that it fits in the slot with no slop or any play from side to side, but yet it glides freely. Now here I flip the sled over, and I'm pre-drilling and attaching it with screws to the bottom of the sled. What I did was, the way I made the spacing was that when I drop it in the runner, in the miter slot, this sled is going to be past the blade by about 1/4 of an inch. And the reason I did that is so I can have zero clearance, and then when I run this through, I'm going to cut this off. It's going to be right up against the blade after the cut, and then what that's going to allow me to do is when I clamp a piece on there that I need a straight edge on, I'm going to put it right to that edge in the front, right to the edge in the back, and then when I rip it off, it's going to give me a perfect straight edge all the way through, and I'm not going to have to worry about whether or not I tailed off and made a taper. So I'm just going to position this and drop into the slot. And as you can see, it's past the blade over here. Okay, let's sit in the slot there. Sit in the slot here. And now what we're going to do is make sure that we're not touching the blade. Put this down, get the safety gear on. And now I'm going to run this all the way through and get my zero clearance edge. Okay, so I flipped the sled back over. What I'm going to do is apply paste wax to everything. It was a little tight in the miter slot, so I'm just going to take a little bit of sandpaper and a sanding block, and I'm just going to knock off just a little bit of the edges all the way down. And then I'm going to do another test run. Now that the zero edge is cut off, I don't have to worry about being in line with the blade. I can run it straight through. I'm just going to sand this off a little bit and knock off these hard edges right here. Then we'll apply the paste wax, and we're going to make sure everything runs smooth, slide it through, and then we're going to cut a straight edge. So after a little paste wax, a little bit of sanding, working it back and forth. Now the sled slides back and forth the way it should, all the way through. I don't want it to go too far. I don't want it to be too loose, because what's going to happen is as you run through, if there's any play in the miter slots, the cut is going to wander and it's not going to cause a straight edge, which is what you're trying to produce here in the long run. So let's get set up with the clamps and show you how this thing works. Okay guys, so I have this piece of hard maple here, which is 6/4, and it's roughly 79 inches. Now, the maximum capacity that I've gotten out of this was 69 to 70 inches, and that was pushing it. Had the blade all the way up as far as it went, really stretched it to the edge, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do is, with this sled, I'll be able to cut, you know, anywhere between 8 and 12 feet, because the fence won't be in the way, and I can slide the whole sled with the table and then push the sled through the rest of the cut. You can see here, this is a rough cut piece. Now, if I was to put this on the jointer, not only because it's heavy and it's a longer board, it would be hard to manage. Now, you see that really jagged edge right there? We're gonna cut that off. We're gonna make a nice straight edge on there, and that'll be ready for actual glue up. And you can see both sides are actually really rough. So what we can do is choose the side that has less of a straight edge on it. You can see here, as I put it on the sled, we have a really big gap right there. Now, if I flip it over, then we have a bow. And you can see the bow right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this side on the sled. We're gonna be using these clamps. These are micro jig match fit or dovetail clamps. So what I'm gonna do is raise this up a little bit so I can see if I have the blade high enough, and I do have the blade high enough. I can go just a tad higher, right there. And what I'm gonna do is, since I know that this is the zero clearance edge, I'm gonna put this board just about 1/8 of an inch over the edge of the sled. I'm gonna do the same down here. I wanna make sure that all of the board is over the sled, okay? Bring it here. Feel to make sure the whole way down, every piece of that board is off the sled. And then take the dovetail clamp, and I'm going to clamp it in place. That will ensure it doesn't move. I'm going to do the same at the end here. Slide the clamp in far enough away from hitting my dust guard. The board's not going anywhere. Drop this down and come up just a little bit higher, right there. All right, back this up. Okay guys, so I've repositioned the camera so that you can see. I'm going to take the clamp off now. I'm going to slide this back. Here's the other clamp. And you can leave these right on the sled if you wanted to. I'm just going to get them out of my way. Reposition them later. Here is thin piece that we cut off to make that thin strip straight line ready. Now, if you remember what the edge looked like before, now you can see a nice, clean, straight edge. Put it back on the jig so that you can see that there is no gaps. No gaps underneath. I'll get you a closer look so you can see how straight that really is. As you remember before, we had a really big gap right here in the center. Now you can see, look how tight that seam is right there. That is a really nice straight edge. And I'm gonna flip the board over for you to see. You can see that this was the other rough side. We didn't touch that. This was the side that we did cut. You can see how nice of a cut that made.
straight through. Perfect straight line rip, no burning on the edge. Now you can see we had this side of the board was bowed. That's the side we didn't touch. So now all we have to do is flop the board down this way, and we could take the side that we did the straight line rip and we'd run that against the fence and we'd cut it to the size that we need. I'm gonna grab a rough 2x4, just about 8 feet long, and I'm gonna do a straight line rip on that to show you the capacity of this sled. Okay, so the next project that I'm working on is going to be using 2x4s. They're going to be like barn-style bifold doors. If you've been following my Instagram and Facebook, then you know that that's the next project that's coming. So what I'm going to do is take this 2x4, and you can see just how bad the bow in this is. Besides the fact that for this project, we also need to cut these rounded corners off. When you get dimensional lumber, they're never squared on the corners, they have that rounded edge. We're gonna take that off, but we're also gonna make it straight at the same time. We're gonna get rid of this knot right here. So what we're gonna do is set it up the same way. We're gonna back this all the way up. Now this, I'm gonna be using the full length of the sled capacity because this board is 8 feet. So I'm gonna back this all the way up and this out of the way. My height is still good, so I'm gonna run with that. So what I'm gonna do here is overhang the edge, put my clamps in, and get my dovetail clamps. Now here's the cool thing about these clamps. They have this feature where if I was to put this in right now, it would be close to the edge. If the board was any smaller, then this piece would run the risk of passing through the sled and sticking out and hitting the blade. You can, let's see if I have this one loose. No, this one's loose. What you can do with these is loosen up. If I can do it here. Okay, good. That's why I left it loose. All right, take it off, spin it around. You can just put this piece back in loosely. And now you can use the clamp backwards. Now you have no risk of this coming out the other side, and you're still getting the clamping pressure that you need. Now, because of the positioning of this, I'm gonna move this more inside so that I can lower this down and bypass the dust shroud without the clamp hitting. So I'm going to tighten this down there. So we're going to cut that side off. Okay. This up here, hang it over the edge. Okay, everything's tightened down. Everything's hanging right over the edge. And we're going to get the most out of this board and do a straight line rip on it. Way. Okay, look at that nice clean edge of that 2x4. That is crisp. Now let's bring this back. Let's sight down that board, you can see. You can see where it meets on the flat part of the sled. It's nice and straight. So that's how I'm going to be doing all the straight line rips on the next project for the 8-footers, because I've run these through the jointer, and to get to flatten out this rounded edge on dimensional lumber takes about 5 to 6 passes on the jointer. And you know, on an 8-foot board, you're fighting to keep it down to the table, and it never comes out 90 degrees. I don't know if you've ever done it before, but this is an easy way to get it done quickly. Okay guys, so that's it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me in the shop. This is a fun little jig to build. You can do this, don't get discouraged. You can use this sled on a regular cabinet saw or even a contractor saw. You can either do it the way I did it, by putting the runner into the miter slots the way I did, with a piece of hardwood, red oak or hard maple, something like that along those lines. Or you can just cut a nice straight edge on one side, either with a track saw or a circular saw, and then you can ride this jig along the fence, and this will be your zero clearance side. And you can either use these match fit dovetail clamps. I'm not sponsored by Micro Jig, by the way. I'm just showing you these clamps because it's something that's useful. Or you can basically get a set of hold downs, either something like these cam clamps that you can rig something up with a piece of wood, put them in the T-track, and you tighten them down, and then when you load the cam up like this, it pushes it down. You can use something like this, one of these clamps. You put it in a T-track, tighten it down, clamps the piece of wood down. So there are all kinds of options for this. So this is an 8-foot sled because I need more capacity on a sliding table saw. I only got 70 inches. I need at least 96 inches for most of the stuff that I do. So, and much more. I do a lot of 10-foot boards, sometimes 12-foot boards. You need to put a straight edge on those. If you're doing a long table or like pilasters or something like that, columns, then you can almost forget about the jointer. It's impossible. You have to set up an in-feed roller, an out-feed roller, and that moves around, and I've done it before. It's a hassle. All right, so this is quick and easy straight line rip jig that you can use for even regular table saw. Like I said, it's not just for sliding table saws. This is for regular contractor or a cabinet saw. All right, guys, so don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and also the Facebook page. I'll put the links in the bottom. If you're interested in any of the tools that you see me use today, the saw, the clamps, so the links are going to be in the description. That's the Amazon link. If you purchase those clamps or any of the tools that you see me use through those links, it will help support the channel. So for those of you who have already purchased tools through those links on Amazon, thank you. All that goes right back into the channel so I can put out the best possible content for the viewers. All right, don't forget to subscribe, guys. I'll see you next time.